Making huge plans. Yeah.
But as far as for me, now this isn't really rabbit hole stuff, I guess, but I feel like we've had this discussion with people. People have emailed about it. We've talked about it multiple times. But this idea of like the concept that I had of, you know, like my worldview, religion, spirituality, all of that, sort of being systematically dismantled by looking into all of these broader, you know, like the more ancient texts, all these sites, like going in, you know, in physics and history and all of this stuff, and just sort of like over time, just kind of dismantling this simplified picture of our existence that I had growing up in the church.
Yeah.
And then, you know, kind of like getting to a point where I'm like, I don't even know what to do with, you know, faith or belief in a spirit world. And I kind of just like, well, I'll just set that aside for now, because in my gut, I still like believe there's something more than like the physical world than just like what we can see. Like we had talked about this with Heather too. Just consciousness is something more.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been like a long, slow journey. And, you know, analyzing the biblical text in more of like the Snake Bros style of looking at everything and like, how can this be real, but not exactly what we thought it was or what most people think it is.
Yeah.
And how it connects to other interesting texts and then, of course, actual archaeological sites and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, recently going through obviously all this UFO stuff with Marty, and I'm just like, you know, these guys going out in the desert drawing freaking triangles and stuff.
Yeah. Spinning potatoes.
You know, it's like, I'm so skeptical about that. And so, you know, at certain points I would be questioning myself, like, well, why am I skeptical? If I do and like deeply believe in some way that there is something beyond all this.
Yeah.
And there has to be a way that it works together. Why am I so skeptical about them painting little triangles and saying some stuff? Like, I don't know. So I kind of go back and forth on this. And then we get into the little people and going through all these legends and then talking to Heather with like, you know, astrology and these things that you know, the chakras and all this stuff. And it's just, you know, this stuff helps people. It changes people's lives. These UFO encounters completely change their lives. All of this, I know it's anecdotal evidence, but it's still, there are people whose lives have just been completely changed by these things.
Yeah.
You know, religious experiences change people's lives forever. They make them better people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've just been really, that's kind of been more of my focus about myself. Just like, where am I in all of this? And like, do I have a canon?
Yeah. A head canon.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm talking about canon, like canonical, like,
Yeah.
okay.
That's right. Yeah. The cannon in your head canon. Not that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not a weapon. A story.
I thought you were talking about that. No. That's my head canon. Yeah. So
No, that was a response we got from one of the times we went on, with one of the first times we went on Soraya's on Where Did the Road Go? Remember, and we went on, it was like, I think the first time we went on a show with him, and he kind of got us to give a broad, like we gave our broad overview of what we do here and all the stuff we talk about. And I got this fantastic response from a guy who's a listener to Soraya's show. And he's like, okay, so you've totally changed my head canon on all this ancient stuff.
that's cool.
Canon, C-A-N-O-N.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I basically, I had a long discussion with the snake wife about this, you know, I don't know, like last month. It was some point after maybe the first or second Little People show. I don't know. It was recent. And because I had been thinking, what do I hold as the most likely, I guess if you could put it that way, like what is the strongest sort of inclination in my, like the spirit belief system? And mostly it's of my own creation. It's like this idea that I've come up with, or, it could be a combination of various other ideas that I didn't come up with, but I sort of put them together in this way that's sort of like, I couldn't point you to a source that says, oh, this, it's something that I pretty much came up with. So that's kind of weird. It's like, I just came up with my own religion, my own belief system. But it's
like that my spiritual beliefs meme with the aliens and
that's yes,
and the whales with the trident and
the I totally relate to those
walking through the desert with the lasers coming out of the
completely relate to those memes. I'm like, yep, that's
how come you never talk about your spiritual beliefs? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have one of those, but I am agnostic, because I don't know. It's not like I wouldn't say it's the same as a faith. It's not like I know,
right?
But I do have this like deep, like intuition or gut feeling that like that there is something, and I can't. That is like, I don't think. That's ever going to go away. Like it doesn't matter how much I get, like, embedded into like physics discussions or I mean, not discussions, but, research or just like diving into physics or cosmology or any of this stuff, scientific stuff, that doesn't, that's materialistic.
Yeah.
I can follow all the logic there, but I still have this like gut feeling that's just like, no, there's more. There's something more. So yeah, I've basically decided.
Do you think that could be like a built-in bias from the upbringing?
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I would say if I have a faith that's it.
The faith is that there's something more.
That there is something more.
Yeah.
Like to consciousness and to my existence and to all of conscious beings' existences. So that is, very, very likely that it's from the upbringing. But I don't, it's definitely in my gut. And I've had experiences, I have had personal experiences that have validated it to me, whether or not, it's because of my own bias or whatever. I don't know. I can't weed through that.
Yeah.
Like some of these experiences are older. Some are more recent. Like they're just, we have these phrases nowadays. We call it like, oh, we're on the path.
Yeah.
There's this feeling.
Yeah.
It's weird, intuitive feelings that come in. So this has sort of been my focus lately. I haven't really been, looking at rocks so much, other than just, occasionally looking for arrowheads. But I mean, like in terms of like going down rabbit holes, I've been more on like really digging into myself and trying to figure out like, because of the podcast, because of these stories coming up with the little people and the UFO series and these things that we've been focusing on, I'm just like,
who am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Who am I even?
And I'm fully comfortable with this. I don't want people to get the wrong idea that I'm like I'm like desperately struggling or searching. No, like I accepted.
It's part of the path.
I accepted long ago when my headcanon was destroyed.
Yeah.
That it was like, that was tough. And then eventually I got over it, and it's just like, okay, I'm fine with not knowing.
Yeah. I agree. There was a difficult period.
Yeah.
For both of us. When we started really looking into and discussing all this stuff, because lots of very ancient foundations had to come down. Ancient in terms of our lives and the things we had believed and the way we had looked at the world. And it was a difficult process. But there was also there there was also the period later where you're like, I can't talk to anybody, right? This is
Yeah.
you go through this whole phase where you're like, this is all I can think about and all I want to talk about, and I can't talk to anybody about this. You know?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're looking for it? It's the My Spiritual Beliefs.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that's what I'm saying. Like I'm fine with all that. I'm fine with not knowing. I'm totally fine being agnostic. But I do actually have a preferred idea.
Yeah.
That is sort of something of my own.
Yeah, I agree. It's
And you know, it's not like here's exactly what happened. It's just like it's something like
it's like
this.
I lean towards this.
It's
Yeah.
something like this kind of idea and thing, which sort of makes this possible or maybe that possible. It's not super detailed to the point of being like, here's exactly how everything happened. It's just, it's just an idea that really resonates with me, as Heather would say. Like this idea resonates with me in a way that I feel like it's more true than the other ideas that might be. So
yeah, I agree. I think that the UFO stuff specifically, like with all this stuff we do with Marty. Yeah, that's it right there. First one. I forgot about the alligator coming out of the portal. That's that's great. Yeah.
those are my spiritual beliefs, folks.
We might need to talk about that, bro. This is
so
why we
good.
have the podcast, so that you can discuss this in detail.
So good.
Yeah, it is good. But yeah, I was gonna say, the UFO stuff with Marty is, I don't know if it's changing my spiritual beliefs, but it is definitely, it's tweaking my worldview for sure.
Yes.
I have already been of the opinion for a while now, especially since diving into Valet, that the UFO thing is far more complex than, the whole nuts and bolts idea, which is that physical beings and physical craft are coming here from some other world in the galaxy or something.
And I know you've been there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It seems to be more complicated than that.
yeah.
I love the idea that we've discussed, this possibility that, like, maybe one day the nuts and bolts aliens will get here and be like, so have you guys seen, like, the lights in the sky?
Yeah.
We came all the way here to ask you what the fuck is going on with that stuff, because we haven't figured it out either. But yeah, it's just... And then, but Marty's angle, which is really great, one of his angles is he brings in just these deep connections throughout the government and all these other military things. And you're just like, okay, bro.
Yeah.
Like, people have been messing with this for a while now in our modern civilization, and who knows how far back it goes.
And that's kind of one of the little chinks in the armor, is that, like,
Yeah.
why would they spend so much resources on this stuff?
Yeah.
If they didn't think it was worthwhile.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they don't always spend money when
like,
they're worthwhile.
yeah, I
things.
was going to say, like, we're talking about government
Yeah.
here. They'll spend resources. They
Anyway, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't want to get the wrong idea that it's changing my religion. It's just really making me introspective.
Yeah.
On what I've left this thing over here on the sidelines for a while, and now I'm kind of more focused on, like, nailing it down
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
But anyways,
It isn't. The UFO stuff is not changing my spiritual view, because that, and this is, I kind of think this is part of what you, maybe not what you were getting at, but my spiritual thing is like, I'm like, okay, my only concrete thing in that sense is that there's something more.
yeah.
That's all. All the rest of it, I'm like, okay, I have this concept that there's good and evil. Is that ontologically true? Is it like something you can prove? Or is that always perspective based? I don't know. I tend to think that there probably is some concrete there. Maybe, I don't know, the possibility of there being a science of morality. Is that even possible?
Yeah.
Because because I've discussed the dark forest hypothesis, or dilemma on the show before, especially in the Patreons. And one of the things that really drove home to me, and I kind of knew this before, but the really looking deeply into the game theory of the Dark Forest hypothesis, it actually, in a way that none of the cosmological discussions, none of the numbers that I know, the trillions of light years, never could bring home, is the freaking scale of the universe. It really made me have to try to grasp it conceptually, because when you start thinking about, because, you know, it's like, and I've never felt like, all the times I've discussed it on the show, off the show, with other people, I can tell by the questions that they ask and the things that they say that I'm like, okay, this is a scale problem, right? And I sat down and thought about it a long time, and once the scale sort of got in my head, it blew my mind. And it's just, I don't know how to get it across, because people are like, well, look, we look out there and we see planets. And I'm like, yeah, like less than 0.0000001% of the planets that are near us in our galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about the whole universe.
Yeah.
That is the Dark Forest, right? So there's a scale issue. And I'm only bringing that up because, well, number one, because I felt like I've never gotten it across. But the other reason is because, does morality have a scale issue? Probably. Like,
I can totally see that.
you know what I mean? Like, once you back out and you see something at scale, and this is the question of, and
sometimes I literally will like take a very small bug
yeah,
and like go and like,
yeah, you put him
Put it
somewhere safe, right? Yeah.
But you know, you're stepping on them all the time,
Right.
and crushing them, and just
Like it at scale. In other words, if you back way out and you're looking at a large portion of the universe, for example, and this is like just completely ignore time, because that's also deep
Yeah, that's
and enormous. So
ridiculous
let's just
scale.
ignore time. Let's just set the problem of time aside and look at the universe, and let's not even look at the whole thing, just a big part of it. Like a large, let's say 50% of the universe, which is, you can't even really grasp what that means, okay? But so you're looking at an enormous section of the universe. All throughout that, millions of suns are exploding. Entire galaxies are colliding with each other and causing havoc and chaos within all the systems in those galaxies. Quasars are going off and shooting gamma rays that would irradiate everything within the path of those things, and that's millions of light years across. In other words, death and destruction on enormous scales.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad? What is the morality here? You know, is someone trying to save whatever's dying and all that stuff?
destruction is evil, creation is good, Russ.
Right. Now let's go down in the other direction of scale. Let's zoom all the way down into where you're looking at the microbiological realm in a small fraction of nature. Just go out and get a piece of dirt, a spoonful of dirt, put it on a microscope. Millions of things are killing and eating each other in there all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So that's happening on a micro scale. It's death and
You
destruction.
just took it out of its environment.
Right, you pull it out of this environment. Even like now, all of it's going to die eventually. Right, it's going to dry out and become sand. You're like, wow, look at the pretty sand. I rinsed away all the. So what's morality? It's a question. It depends on what scale you're looking at it in. Right, it's inevitable. And so, and how does this tie into spirituality? Well, questions about God or the Creator or whatever. Does he look at the universe at scale, or is he capable of? Or he, whatever it is, Heather was saying, the ether, the divinity, the universe itself,
but
all
is
of
it capable
consciousness.
of like focusing on one tiny entity?
Right. Well, we keep getting told, like the ancient texts imply in some cases that
knows every hair on your head. Bro.
yeah, every hair on your head, right? The Bible specifically, every sparrow that falls, whatever, right? Other texts say it in other ways that like there's a sort of an all-father or an all-knowing thing, and it is aware. And maybe, with Laird Scranton stuff, it's the same thing. Like, the reason that's possible is because there's a realm in which time isn't a thing, right? So it's a permanent, eternal instant, and it can thus look at our universe. And forever is the wrong word, but it has essentially all of time to see every tiny piece of it and understand it at every possible scale. And so then your question is, well, how does it make moral decisions? Right? So it's like, I don't even deal with any of those questions. I just think there is something more. I think possibly there is a way that if there's a hierarchy out there, there is a way that this hierarchy can deal with these kinds of problems. And that I guess in general, that there is a system that we're all involved in. I just have no idea what it is. And I'm content with that. You know, I love the questions. I like to think about it and talk about it. But I'm not really capable of seeing any of this from any scale except my own. You know, I can conceptualize.
Right,
yeah.
And I think that's probably where the roots of morality really
Yeah.
are. Is at
your scale.
scale.
What are the moral things to do? And is there right and wrong?
Yeah, because you can't
Yeah.
possibly consider morality on a microscopic scale. Like it's
Yeah.
impossible for a person to even conceive.
Yeah, because then, like, every time you wash your face, you're committing mass murder.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you couldn't even, you can't live that way.
Yeah.
So you have to take things at scale. And that makes you understand that, like, there's a universe out there. And it's, this
also
is
taking things at scale.
well, that's what made me realize it. I'll bring it back to the dark forest, is this made me see the scale of the universe in a way that I had never considered it before, because I was being forced to view it from the perspective of a civilization, which I can kind of conceptualize. Mm-hmm. I can conceptualize a civilization, a planet of people or of beings, right? And the problem of that planet of beings looking out into the universe and wondering, are there dangerous things out there? And how do you even look for it without revealing yourself? You have to use passive observation. And there's, like, already our scientists, we have pinpoint observations and then some broad picture that can't possibly look at stars to see planets. But there's so much data, you know, that they'll have a telescope, like, look at the big night sky for looking at cosmic microwave background or whatever, and it takes months for computers to analyze the data. But then astronomers have to look at the data and ask questions they have to inquire into the data to even get information out of it, because there's so much, right? This is the problem with SETI.
Think of this microorganism like in the bark of a tree, and it's just like building instruments to look.
Yeah.
And you know, there's all these pores. The pores are so huge that it's just massive, and you're like on this ridiculously small scale.
Right.
That every direction you look, it looks the same, and there's just so much stuff around you, but you're really only on one side of a tree, crack of a piece of bark.
Yeah.
It's like
and maybe that microorganism has this crazy conspiracy theory that there are giants moving around out there.
Yeah.
But it lives for one day.
Yeah.
What is the likelihood that one of the giants is going to walk past its tree on that side in that day, and it's going to see it? It's going to be looking, right?
Yeah.
That's so. Again, problems at scale. The dark forest forced me in a way to conceptualize this in a way that sort of brought it home, because now you're like, okay, the universe is really big.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing. I keep going back to this because I always feel like I haven't explained it. But so this is outside of the more general idea of spirituality. But again, people start asking questions that are. The other thing it forced me to do was look at it in generalities, right? In general, at scale, here are the problems. You know, and people are like, well, I mean, like, what if it's right next door to you? Well, I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the story for the whole thing at scale, right? Anyway, so I kind of sit with these. What's been great about exploring this stuff with Marty and the UFO stuff, and then also all the other things we've looked at with the podcast in terms of my spirituality, is it's done the same kind of thing that Egypt did. Is it kind of stripped away all the bullshit, and now I'm able to point and say, here's the only thing I can point to and say that is right, or that this is what I think is true, and that is that there's something more.
Yeah.
I don't know any more than that, and that's good. That's a good thing that it's been pared down to this bare that I can look at this and say, I know that there's more mystery here, and maybe there are ways that I can inquire into the mystery that will give me more understanding that I don't do, like meditation, like some of the stuff that Heather does. Possibly there are avenues for me to gain more understanding or to at least explore it more that I haven't done. But in general, getting rid of all the BS so that I'm able to be at that point is really good, I think. It's liberating.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so on the one hand, it leaves you with, who am I really? But on the other hand, it's a freeing thing to, like, I feel like it's a freeing thing to be able to sit there and say, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that. It's not bad. It's only that I got to that point, and I'm kind of, and then I just sort of left it there. But now I'm doing.
That's
more
good.
Yeah, I left it there, but now I'm doing more of, like, thinking about, sort of like taking all this stuff in and rethinking, you know, about possibilities, which to me is an exciting and fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Is to think about possibilities and like what makes the most sense or what resonates with me. So
yeah,
I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, and I think that in general, I hope in general that that's sort of what this show is like, kind of asking those kind of questions. Like, what, you know, here's information we've got. Let's kind of sift through it, make fun of some things, you know, crack some dumb jokes, and also in the end, hopefully come to us like, well, here's the stuff that's the most interesting, that seems to have the most possibility or resonates better with us or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's healthy and it's fun. I don't know if it'll ever lead to, like, a spiritual awakening, but it could.
None of it explains the bananas or the fish raining down from the sky.
Or, yeah. I was also thinking, I was like, where do I stand on the 411 stuff? Fish raining from the sky.
The Ford.
I feel like we could connect these things somehow. Bananas, fish raining from the sky, and missing 411 are somehow connected.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Whatever removed the fish from their previous place where they occupied could be the same thing that causes missing 411.
Yeah, it's possible that people will rain from the sky at some point. God. It's a terrible joke. Okay. We have more to say, so I think we can continue it with Patreon.
Yeah. We already did.
Yeah, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. We cut it. We were like, they can't hear that. We can't say this on air, so we cut it out of the show. No, that's not true. But yeah, we had a long discussion. We're gonna put it in a Patreon episode. So yeah, 301 episodes. Thank you guys so much.
We did it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we did it.
No, it's 300 episodes.
301th episode is the 300th episode. Episode 301, the 300th.
And
episode.
we much appreciation to all of you for being there with us through all this and being a part of it. It's been an amazing journey, and I just never imagined it would be what it is.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is what it is so awesome. So thank you all very much for that.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I'll say this now too, since this is episode 301. For episode 201, we did a kind of we played a bunch of clips from older shows that had been collected by listeners in the Discord. They had a whole thing where they were collecting these. We didn't do that for this episode. But I'll just say this to you guys in the Discord and anybody else. If you're interested in that kind of thing for 401, that would be fun. You can start collecting clips and putting it together. You have 100 episodes to work on it. But it's a lot of work. So, you guys, if you want, start planning it now. Because I've seen people asking, like, can we do this for 401? Can we do another one of these? Like, yeah, I'm totally fine with it. The thing is that was almost entirely done by listeners of the show. and we got a big selection of clips, and then we played them and talked about them and had a good time. If you guys want to do that again, I'm totally down for 401. So just letting you know, yeah, go ahead. Make it happen. We can't do it.
And then there will be episode 502, which will be the 500th episode. Because 411, obviously, is going to disappear.
It's going to vanish without a trace.
Not even going to be there.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
6 minutes after we publish it, it's gone.
It had colorful socks. We love you.
Always have.
Always will.
Good night, Adamu.
Get back to work. Episode 301. Totally different song than the other one. So much has changed between us. Put the beginning at the end. Genius. No one will ever complain. Turn on the lights and the camera. We're gonna do it right, yeah. At some point in the future, it's gonna happen real soon. Episode 301. 300 souls since the first one. And I love every single one of you. Since the first one, episode 2. There's a bright light in the sky. I think everything is gonna be alright. Marty's gonna tell us eventually, yeah. There's gonna be a UFO somewhere in this story.